Hey guys, welcome back to the internet. So it's time for another story video. Because like I mentioned recently, sometimes it can be just a big pain to find a question for a video. And these story ones still get more views anyway, so let's just start with an entitled parents story called A CBD Battery Saved My Backpack from an Entitled Mom. Hello Reddit, so I'm mad as frick about this entire situation. Before I get the story started, I want to disclose. I'm a 21-year-old girl living in Southern California, and marijuana is legal here. I use a CBD pen because it helps me sleep and general calmness. I don't totally understand how CBD is made, very new to all this, but the kind I have in my battery at the moment is a hybrid strand that's 80% CBD and 20% THC. So it basically gives you the effects of marijuana without being high. I'm not completely sure, but it helps my anxiety and I like it. Now to get to the story, like any good VSCO girl wannabe, I have a backpack. It's a burnt orange small one, but not the smallest. I collect animal pins, so I put my favorite ones on my can and school backpack. Currently I have a spooky ghost, an end mental health stigma, cloud, and two from an iconic 1995 animated film, The Goofy Movie. I loved it as a kid, and when I saw the pin on eBay, I knew I needed them on my backpack immediately. I really like to go to coffee shops to people watch and write, and this story takes place on one of those days. I typically rotate between 3 shops, but stupidly today I wanted to try a new shop maybe 30 minutes from my house. After ordering and sitting down, I realized I had to pee, so I left my water bottle and backpack on the table I've chose to sit at, and grabbed my wallet from my bag before running off to pee. I left my bag on the table because it was a little dead, so I figured it would be fine. Little did I know that my Powerline pin would grab the attention of a sweet little boy, I'd guess about 6. When I came back from the bathroom, I noticed the little boy standing by my backpack. I ignored it because the shop had a long table where single parties could sit. I figured he was just waiting for his parents or something. I got my drink and was about to sit down when she approached. So the boy says, "I like your pin." I say, "Thanks, sweetheart." I tried to sit down, only to get stopped by the Karen, who says, "Are you selling them?" I shake my head. I collect enamel pins. I can send you a link to the pin set. I just got them off eBay. The Karen brows come closer to me. "What do you mean you collect pins? At your age? And of cartoon characters? Give it to my boy." So I awkwardly laugh, hoping to defuse the situation, and say, "I don't think there's an age limit to enamel pins, or collecting things. Can you please leave me alone?" This angered Karen. She grabbed my backpack from the table. I quickly grabbed at one of the straps and pulled it closer to me. This was a mistake. Her grip tightened. She says, "Give my son the pin. I know the owner." I say, "Ma'am, I'm not giving you the pin. Let go of my backpack." She says, "Barista, the girl is trying to steal my son's backpack." I say, "What the heck, you crazy bee? Give me my bag." A barista steps in. Unfortunately, it wasn't the same barista that had taken my order, and I felt my anxiety building in the fear of my backpack potentially being stolen, since I had my wallet in my pocket and no way to really prove it was mine. The barista says, "What's going on here?" The Karen says, "She's trying to steal my son's backpack." The boy was hiding behind his mom. I think the arguing scared him. I say, "I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, this lady was trying..." "She's lying, look at her. This is clearly a little boy's backpack." The barista grabbed my backpack from the two of us quickly. Says, "Okay, how about we open it up to see whose bag it is?" I nodded, knowing I had very few obviously 21-year-old lady things in there. Karen looked like a deer in the headlights. She says, "You can't go through my son's bag. That's theft." I say, "I'm not going to take anything. You'll both see me open it. It's that or I'm calling the police." Karen begrudgingly consents, and the barista opened the small pocket on my backpack. He moved around the contents and looked up to Karen. Says, "This isn't your son's bag." So now she's angry, knowing she was caught. "Of course it is. Look at the pins on this." The barista says, "Why would your kid have a battery?" He pulled out my CBD pen. I shot Karen a smirk. She was busted and you could see her sweating. She mumbled something about it being hers. The barista shook his head and looked at me. "What else is in the pocket?" "Well, obviously my CBD pen and an iPhone charger, AirPods, I think a chapstick, and probably some gum wrappers for lint." So he hands me the backpack. "Keep an eye on your bag." He turns the attention to Karen. "I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." The Karen was about to say something, but closed her mouth before anyone else could come out. She left with no protest, and I thanked the barista before moving to a different table. I like how there's just like a clash between both parties in the coffee shop, and it's like, "You are the weakest link, now get out." Just remember guys, if you're ever out in public, and you own something and you carry something around that a child might like, it automatically means that you have to give it to a child if they want it. I mean, it's in the Entitled Parents Handbook. Next we've got, "Can't answer my questions? Lose a sale." So at the time, I was a 21-year-old female in the Navy. I was buying a car while on leave, way back in the mid-70s. My dad drove me to the closest city since I didn't have a vehicle. My ancient car that had already gone through 3 family members had finally died. I had already gotten financing at my local small-town bank, who told me to just write a check, and they would finish the paperwork afterwards. Like I said, the bank was in a very small town, and things like that were common. They knew me, and I knew everyone who worked there. I was looking at a really nice car that was only about 3 years old. The dealership had a banner that said, "We will answer your every question, or we can't sell you your next car." Or something like that. I talked, or at least tried to talk to the salesman. He only wanted to talk to my dad. My dad kept telling him to talk to me. He tried to convince me that we needed to fill out paperwork or financing, even though I told him that it was already taken care of. He asked my dad what his budget was, and the dad said, "Talk to her," pointing to me. I was ready to walk away right then and there, but I really liked that car. We finally were ready for a test drive. I drove, the salesman was in front with me, and my dad in the back. The salesman would answer my every question, but turning around to answer to my dad. My dad and I exchanged looks in the rearview mirror. I turned around and started back to the lot. The salesman, confused, asked my dad why we were going back so soon. I told him that he obviously didn't want to sell to me since he refused to talk to me, so I continued the test drive. When we got back, he kept trying to talk to my dad and convince him to talk some sense into the little lady. I said, pointing to his banner, "You won't answer my questions, so you can't sell me a car." He still tried to convince my dad that we could work something out, just between them. Too bad I really wanted the car, but he lost the sale. I ended up at another dealership that actually talked to me and bought a nice little 4-year-old car that served me well for several years. Just to clarify, this was in the mid-1970s, and sexism was par for the course. Well, maybe try just being male next time you go to a dealership. I don't know what else to tell you. That's so weird that the guy just kept talking to your dad as if you didn't know what you were talking about. Next we've got, "Bartender saves my A." So this happened about 20 years ago, but it was brought to my mind today when I ran into the story's hero, to whom you'll be introduced shortly. The story starts long ago, when I was working at my first job, a waiter at a certain pizza chain famous for its connection to Chicago. I was new, but looking back, I was doing a decent job, made my mistakes, but worked hard and was eager to learn. A couple months into the gig, I had a big group that started as a happy hour after work get-together and morphed into an all-night drinks, dinner, desserts, and many more drinks extravaganza, with people coming and going. Took up a back room and was my only table, probably 15 people at any one time, but at 30 plus total, counting the coming and going, all being put on one ever-growing tab. The group's leader made a big show of collecting cash from the people who left. Let's call him Bob. So I was busting my butt all night, trying to bust tables as we went, as plates and glasses piled up and new people arrived. Again, I think I did a pretty good job and had no complaints. They had a great time, offered to buy me drinks, and we were all on first-name basis by the end of the night. By the end of the night, the bill was over $2,000. As they began to clear out, Bob was making sure everyone had paid him and got the corporate card. I was clearing the table when he signed the receipt, and put it at the far end of the table from me, and hustled out. He and his groups were putting on their coats by the bar. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Tip on the credit card receipt was $0, and a nice crisp $20 bill for my trouble. And here's where we meet our hero. The bartender that night was an absolute killer. He was about 50 years old, but built like a tank. Super friendly, but also took no crap. I walked over to the bar and told him, "That dude just tipped me like 1%, and I know that all his buddies gave him cash. He just stole my tip." He glanced over. "That guy in the red shirt?" "Yep. I got you." He walks over to Bob. "Hello, sir. I'm the manager on duty tonight. Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate the business." He was speaking really loud. He was not the manager on duty. "I noticed that you tipped our server $20, which is less than 1%. I'm assuming that the service was subpar, so I wanted to apologize. Can I offer you a free drink to make it up to you?" Well, the whole group erupted. "What? You left the guy almost no tip? What the F?" They knew they had all put in their cost and tip, and he was pocketing it. Bob stammered and tried to say that it must have been some mistake. His remaining colleagues took up the collection, and Bob also put out his cash. In the end, I got a huge tip, as both Bob and his coworkers tipped. The bartender got a big chunk of it from me. Some of his colleagues came back a few weeks later and told me that the group goes out all the time, and Bob always pays, and they think he's been stealing from them and servers this whole time. What a jerk. I ran into the bartender this week. He didn't remember or recognize me at first, but he remembered the story, and we had a good laugh. Man, I honestly just can't get over the fact that anyone would have like a $2,000 bill at a restaurant. Then again, I don't ever drink alcohol, so I'm not used to these overly expensive drinks that people buy so many of. Now we've got, entitled dad doesn't understand that his son can't be in our internet cafe and calls 911 for illegal activities. So I live in New York City, and I work as an employer at a small, unpopular internet cafe. I've been a worker at the cafe for 6 months. Everything was smooth until 2 weeks ago. Can't believe people like this even exist on the planet. So here's how it happened. So it was around 7 in the evening, where it was the peak of people, mostly teens, but okay, came here and played games. Even though it was a peak time, it was still less than 20 people there, when Entitled Dad and his brat came. Now please note that the bratty son is less than 16 years old, and was not allowed to be on our premises. So I try to inform the dad about the policy. The following conversation ensues. "Greetings, sir. May I see your son's ID card, please?" "Why?" "You maybe didn't notice, but our policy states that your son needs to be at least 16 years old to be in here." "I don't need to. He is mature enough to be here." "Okay, so what's your intention to be here?" The kid says, "I want to play CSGO." I say, "Okay, you can. Can't. What's the price for an hour usage?" I say, but I need your son's ID." "Why?" "To ensure he's 16 years old." "Do I need to repeat again? He is mature enough to be here. Furthermore, he plays like a professional. He deserves to be here." I say, okay, what's your rank in CSGO, mate?" He says, "Silver 1. I say, "Okay, let me tell you something straight, sir. Silver 1 is the lowest skill group, not high enough to be called professional, and without ID, you can't use our computers." "But I want to play CSGO." "You heard it. He wants to play it. Give it." I say, "Sir, with all my respect, your son needs to prove that he's 16 years old. I will not let your son, or even you, use our computers if you don't show us your ID. Do I make myself clear, sir?" "Okay, F you. If my son can't play, neither other can play. I'm gonna call 911 for promoting illegal activities in this premises, and for assaulting my son. This way, your cafe will be shut down." I say, "Okay, go ahead. Just to inform you that our cafe is legit and registered, so I can assure you no illegal activities is taking place." "I want to see your manager." "Why would you want to see my manager where instead you can call the police to file a complaint about our illegal activities?" "That's it. You're gonna get it from me." He then left the cafe while calling on his phone. I'm still waiting for the police to come to our internet cafe. Sorry if the ending is not satisfying. If I have any updates, I'll let you know. I have no idea where they came up with the idea of using the excuse of, he's really good at the game, which means he can bypass the age restriction of being here, I guess. Like, even if he were good at the game, why would that matter? Alright, we got time for one more, called Karen tries to order pizza for me while I'm eating pizza myself, then refuses to believe I don't work there. For context, I work at a chain bakery that has a bright blue polo shirt and khaki colored pants as the uniform, with the bakery's logo embroidered on one of the sleeves. Coming home from work on the bus, there's a small plaza at the stop before mine that has some pretty bomb pizza, and every once in a while I'll stop by the plaza to grab some and walk the rest of the way home. The uniform there is a fire truck red t-shirt, with the logo completely covering the back, and black pants. If someone can tell me how Karen got this mixed up, I would love to know. Anyways, here's the story. So on this great day, I was running on 3 to 4 hours of sleep, a cheese croissant and coffee, had just gotten off an 8 to 15 shift, and hadn't had time to grab lunch while on break. So suffice to say, I was hungry. Hungry enough that I didn't even care that I was still in my work uniform. I just wanted some food pronto. So I stopped by the pizza parlor, grabbed a slice, some Mountain Dew, and a cookie for the road, and sat down a happy customer. I had my headphones in and was scrolling through my phone while I ate, when the staff disappeared behind the counter. No biggie. About a minute later, Karen walks in. It was just me in the place at the time, and the staff was still in the kitchen. The most attention I gave her was a quick glance before looking back to my phone and taking another sip of my pop. I assumed she would just go to the counter and order, you know, like a normal person. But I assumed wrong. Before I knew it, she was standing right beside my table and giving me the good old, disapproving stare only Karens are capable of. This was our interaction as follows. So me taking an earbud out and lowering my volume. Can I help you?" "Hi, can I get a..." Starts listing her order. I say, "Oh, sorry, but I don't work here." She pauses, as if this information was too large of a worldview shift for her to process, and in the end, her brain just could not compute. "First, don't interrupt me. That's very rude. Second, that's a uniform. This is an establishment. I know you work here, so don't give me that attitude." The logic of this Karen made my own brain short-circuit, and I guess I showed it on my face, because the next thing I knew, her jaw dropped in shock, and she was railing on my horrendous work ethic, and berating me over wearing headphones on the job, and eating all the product that's meant for the customers. She even went as far as to say that I'd made a huge mistake, as she was a regular and had more than enough leeway to get me fired. Side note, if she was a regular, she would have known what the uniform looked like. It was around this point that I remembered the logo on my sleeve and just wordlessly turned my arm and pointed at it. The Karen stops yelling loud enough to give it a proper look, and I could see the color just drain from her face. I'm a petty little turd though, so to rub the salt in the wound, I tacked on a not-so-friendly, "See that company name? What's this place called again?" Then, not 2 seconds later, an actual staff member shows up behind Karen and asks if there's a problem. I thought that was the end of it. She says, "Yes, there's a problem. Your coworker was extremely rude to me." Yep, that's right. Karen was still insisting that I worked there. The pizza girl looks at me and recognizes me as the girl she just served. Ma'am, she doesn't work here. Says, "Don't lie to me. I want to see a manager." The pizza girl goes to get her manager. All the while, Karen is giving me the snobbiest death glare I've gotten in my life. I just sighed and took another sip of my pop. Then the employee and her manager come back out. The manager says, "Hi, what's the problem here?" "That girl refused to take my order and was extremely rude to me. You need to discipline her." The manager comes in and says, "She doesn't work here, ma'am, but I can take your order if you'd like." Finally, Karen leaves me alone and follows the manager to place her order. I could hear her complaining about me though, so I started packing my things up to eat my pizza at home in peace. The girl stopped me though, handing me a takeout bag with another slice, garlic dip, and a cookie. She said it was both an apology for having to deal with Karen and a thank you for being one of their nicer regulars. Still puts a smile on my face, and this was yesterday. On my way out though, I heard Karen demanding a free pizza. I hope those guys turned out okay. You know, there are those types of people that they'll start a lie and then they'll just double down on it even though there's evidence against them and they just refuse to accept that they are wrong. But it's pretty funny when the evidence is like staring them blatantly in the face and they still go along with it as if they know what they're talking about. Anyways, let's move on to the question of the day, which is, what's a statistic that blew your mind? More people have died from tuberculosis than there are people on Earth. Tuberculosis death count is 10.7 billion, and it kills about 1 million people each year. Geez, I think I will stay away from tuberculosis then. Yeah, I have heard statistics that there's something like over 100 billion people who have ever lived. So I mean, I guess we figured out how 10% of them went. The USA has the 3rd highest population in the world. If it had 1 billion more people, it would still have the 3rd highest population in the world. Yeah, talk about a population gap. The Chinese and the Indians are hogging all the people in the world. 1 million seconds is about 10 days. 1 billion seconds is over 30 years. Yeah, it's actually about 32 years. I know this because my dad is really nerdy and he likes to throw people parties for their billionth second when they're around 31 or 32. 5,000 people move to Florida a day, and barely any of them are coming for anything other than to die. What do they even mean by that? I mean, I hear there's a lot of crazies in Florida. I mean, is that just where people go to give up on life and just go insane? A 3-year-old girl is more likely to live to 100 than a 97-year-old man. Yeah, that is a really weird one. I've also heard ones that's like, the very first person to live to 150 years old is probably already alive today. 5 out of 6 people enjoy playing Russian roulette. That didn't really blow my mind, but I know it did for someone else. Yeah, just don't be one of those people who try to play Russian roulette with a Glock. Well, I think I'm gonna end it there. For those of you who don't actually go on to Ask Reddit yourself, there's actually hundreds of questions that get posted there every single day. But the majority of them are like, what is your opinion on this? Or what would you do in this hypothetical situation? Most of them are like, you know, like very short answer sort of conversation starters. And those kind of questions usually don't make for good videos, so I have to like look for the ones where it's like, what is your story of this happening? And sometimes it's kind of hard to find questions like that actually have enough responses for me to make a video out of it. But yeah, it's nice when I can just throw like a short one at the end of these sometimes. So just a heads up, I might be missing a couple of days here and there in the next couple weeks. I've actually been putting a ton of work into this project for the YouTube Analyzed channel. So yeah, don't worry guys, I haven't forgotten about that channel. It's just, I'm working with some people to release something pretty big soon. So thanks for watching, I'll talk to you guys next time, and enjoy the Fae of the day.